Welcome to the Boxing Source Midweek Report, where we tackle the latest topics in the sport of boxing here up to this point every single Wednesday. Time to start the show. Yeah. What's going on? That's right. We are here. That is the Boxing Source Midweek Report. Here we are, May 28th, 2025. Man, we got a few things here that we're going to be chopping up about here in this particular edition of the Midweek Report. We got a number of topics here that we're going to, try to get into here for a little bit, and then also look into some more boxing news and other things that have happened here over, the course of this week here. So, we wanted to kind of tackle, what's been going down over these past few days and things like that. But, also, react to some of the biggest stories that are out there, because, I mean, we kind of talked about this here for a couple weeks now. It's been a few weeks since we've had one of these topics be at the forefront here on the Boxing Source. And, now I just wanted to go ahead and have my take on it. I wanted to see if a couple of people would be able to join in here to talk about this because I wanted to have their input on it and be able to have their thoughts to talk about it as well. But we have a number of things here that we're doing on the Boxing Source. So if you haven't done so already, check out the videos that we have on the YouTube channel. Number of interviews that I have posted up over the past couple of weeks here, as we have some fights that are coming up for next weekend. And I've talked with a few people that are involved on those fight cards and have something planned also for Friday that'll be on the DMV Boxing Network. It'll be exclusively on the DMV Boxing Network YouTube channel there. So we're going to have the show as scheduled for Friday on the DMV Boxing Network channel. So y'all be able to check that out there on Friday, as we have scheduled guests for Friday evening. All right. But wanted to get right into it, man, because I'm almost, kind of tired of talking about it, but we got to bring this up. Okay. This is, from recent news here over the past couple of days. Got Teofimo Lopez, or whoever he wants to be, whatever. He's sounding off. He's been sounding off over the past couple of days. And looks like, they had something where a fight was on the table between him and Devin Haney. It's basically been taken off because of Teofimo Lopez's comments to Turki Al-Sheikh. Folks all about it. He said he called Turki Al-Sheikh a dictator, and it wasn't necessarily spelled like y'all would think it would be spelled there. But now I kind of like say, you know what? I'm ready to get rid of this dude once and for all. Let me see here. I got my great guest here that's going to be joining on here for the Midweek Reports. I've been on here for a few conversations. And of course, the Philly Lake, Mr. Philly himself, YSM Sports Media is in the building, man. What's going on?
What's good, JR?
Oh, man, just chilling, man. I've been talking about this particular topic for the past few weeks. You've been talking about it, a number of times over the past few weeks. And, I feel like just putting it to bed once and for all. Like after this, I want to put it to bed once and for all. We should be talking about this guy. You had, some distinct words referencing Teofimo Lopez because he's just acting like an absolute idiot, asshole, absolute fool, and he should be dealt with, but not necessarily in the ring, because you would be able to get him paid for it. Why would we pay him for it? So now this whole thing that was up in the table for him to face Devin Haney has been brought up, and now it seemed like that kind of like has been shot down, at least for now. So yeah, what are you seeing there from that particular news here so far?
Well, first I'm about to go for my daily walk, right? And you kind of like bringing me down, because like, why the fuck are we still talking about this nut ass dude? like, yo, I'm normally like PC with stuff like this,
Yeah.
and I'm neutral, right? Um, when the whole thing about with the negotiations between Jaron Ennis and Virgil Ortiz and Boots went to go fight Stanionis, I don't hold no ill will towards Virgil Ortiz or nothing like that. You know what I mean? Virgil Ortiz is a good young fighter and is looking to make a big fight. But fuck Teofimo Lopez, bro. Like I mean that from the bottom of my heart and soul, like really, really deep down there. Like fuck him. Like he don't deserve a payday. Like he's using race to stir up controversy so he can land a big fight. That's not the way to do it. You let your skills and let your performances do the talking for you in that regards. I don't got no issue with you even popping shit, but you don't need to disrespect a group of people. I don't care if they black, white, Mexican, or whatever. You don't need to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And that just shows that you're not a star. Stars don't need that.
Yep.
Bro, I watched I was at the BKFC press conference, right?
Mm-hmm.
Conor McGregor arrived 2 hours late. I had never seen shit like that before in my life. He arrived 2 hours late and we didn't care because he was there. He came in, the energy completely shifted, and he was like, I'm 2 hours late, but I don't give a fuck. The crowd went crazy, bro. The crowd went crazy. Whatever it is that a superstar has, I saw it that day, bro. I saw it up close and personal. He's a superstar. Teofimo Lopez is not a star. Teofimo Lopez is a good fighter, really, really athletically gifted fighter, but he's not a superstar. And he's taking the easy way out. And I don't want it to be the norm now to call people to say racially disparaging remarks in order to get a fight. Because now every culture is going to do it. And like that's going to be the norm in lead up to fights. And that's corny as shit.
It's a dumb way to try to approach things to potentially get a fight. And you mentioned it, like he's doing it to try to gain interest or whatever it is, and it's basically just backfiring on him, and it's not working because he's talked about it with Tank Davis, he's talked about it with Keyshawn, now he's talking about it with Boots Ennis or with Terrence Crawford, and it's like it's not going to work for him. And
literally, he went down the line like people. Because Boots is the latest name, right? Mm-hmm. Boots is the latest name that people want to see Boots in there with somebody, a name that they know. That is not a competitive fight.
Nowhere near.
That is not like I didn't want to see that fight. Respect. I'm a big Devin Haney guy. Love Dev, man. I think Dev is a Hall of Famer already. I don't want to see him in Boots. I don't want to see a 35 moving up and fighting a big 47 knockout artist. I know how that movie ends, bro.
Mm-hmm. It's crazy that you had something in an instance where a guy that was established at 135 or 140 in Mikey Garcia, and he goes up against Errol Spence Jr., and we all saw what happened there.
We saw that movie, bro.
We saw that.
That was not a good night of boxing.
No, it wasn't.
Mikey made a business decision after like the first or second round, like, look, I'm gonna just survive. That's it. And that's all. T.O. would take a couple jabs and realize this ain't it. I'm gonna try to have a moral victory that Jaron Ennis didn't knock me out.
That would basically be it. It's almost like what we had with Canelo and Charlo. Like, he didn't knock me out. I got through 12 rounds. He didn't knock me out. But here it's like there should be no type of association, affiliation, or anything whatsoever between Teofimo Lopez and Jermall Boots Ennis. There is nothing that ties them together. There's nothing that says, hey, Teofimo Lopez is the clear-cut number one guy at 140 pounds. He had one fight with a Josh Taylor that hadn't fought in a year, gave up most of his belts, almost lost to Jack Catterall in his previous fight.
Almost.
Because of that one win that Teofimo Lopez has, oh, he's a clear-cut number 140. Like, I don't even want to go into the history of Josh Taylor in his run at 140 either, because he won by decision against those guys, Regis Prograis and Jose Carlos Ramirez, and then had the decision against Jack Catterall. So
controversial.
Exactly.
So wait, JR.
Yeah.
People want to act like weight classes don't matter, but then when he goes up and fights Echo Usman, a guy nobody ever heard of at 147 pounds, gets beat. That's showing you. And Josh is a big 140. Size does matter in boxing. It matters.
Mm-hmm. Yep. A guy in Echo Usman who, was a French contender, was older than Josh Taylor, 36, with Josh Taylor's 34, and yet Josh Taylor couldn't really step on the gas and finish the guy to kind of like say, hey, okay, he could be a contender in the welterweight division. Nope. Mm-mm. Not even against Esselman.
Man, when Esselman calls out Boots, they're going to be like, he ducking Boots. Boots ducking Esselman.
Like, come on, man. And here's the other thing, too. And I know of course, the history there with Teofimo Lopez. This is the same Teofimo Lopez that declined bouts not only against Subriel Matias at 140 pounds, but against Brian Norman Jr. at 100 pounds, who is affiliated with Top Rank, who Teofimo Lopez is under.
Teofimo Lopez could have easily forced that fight. Like, if you wanted to fight Boots so bad, like you said, okay, get something that Boots wants. It was like he wanted to unify. Fight Brian Norman, beat Brian Norman, exercise your right as WBO super champion, exercise that right, challenge, beat Brian Norman, and then go into a unification bout with Jaron Ennis. But the fact that you fight in 5,000 seat arenas and you think that people are just going to be clamoring to fight you because you fight on ESPN, people know your name but aren't willing to pay to see you fight. That's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
People know Teofimo Lopez, and they know Teofimo Lopez for a variety of reasons, but they aren't paying to watch you fight. You fought Josh Taylor in the Hulu Theater that holds 5,000. Boots fought Karen Chikazin, who nobody ever fucking heard of, in Wells Fargo. And now you're upset because Turki Al-Ashiki doesn't want to give you the same money to fight Devin Haney as he was going to give you for Jaron Ennis, and that's why you crashing the fuck out.
He's acting like a fool once again, as usual. And as you mentioned, I mean, like, I was out there at Madison Square Garden when he faced Sandro Martin, the big arena, not the small arena. And we saw how many people were there, and I said that could have barely even filled up the theater at Madison Square Garden. And that is why we ended up having Teofimo Lopez fighting Josh Taylor at the theater at Madison Square Garden at the big arena.
Yep.
And then you follow that up with his events there against over in Miami Beach, right? Or before that with Jermaine Ortiz. Like, come on. Like, what are we talking about here? You ain't that superstar or whatever it is, or what, anyway, I don't even think he's more of like a star, you know what I mean? Because if you're even at that particular level, you would at least have some type of interest to where you could fill up like a smaller venue, so like a Michelob ULTRA Arena, maybe. You know what I mean? He couldn't really do that against Jermaine Ortiz. So how are you gonna claim the command that you deserve this type of money if you ain't even pulling in the interest that all of these other guys that are either stars or superstars are doing?
The reality is that he clout chased popping black fighters, and he went down the list and said a whole bunch of racial epithets to get fighting. That's the truth. That's the truth. And at this point in his career, Boots is going to do what he wants to do when he wants to do it. Now, I'm not saying that Boots is a superstar yet, but it's looked like it's heading in that direction. And he has certain things that he wants to cross off of his checklist in his career. And fighting Teofimo Lopez wasn't one of them. It's
Is
just
nowhere near any one of them. Nowhere near. And you talk about the thing there with Teo being a WBO super champion at 140. He could go up to 147 and challenge Brian Norman. Wait a minute. I think someone, was at 140 pounds at one point and, eventually made the decision to move up and fought the WBO champion at 147. I think his name was a Mr. Terrence Allen Crawford.
he does.
Why can't you do the same thing that Terrence Crawford did in order to secure yourself to fight a Jaron Boots Ennis? You know what I mean?
Did he do that with Josh Taylor? Why is this any different?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Boots brings out 10 to 15K in Philly, says Alberto. Teo can't draw in Florida or New York. Yep. You know what I'm saying? So
Boots brings out that against Europeans that you don't really know. Teo had the fucking undisputed champion at 140. He couldn't do it.
Couldn't even do it. Couldn't even fill the theater at Madison Square Garden.
That's ass, yo. That's ass.
That's probably a bag of ass. Basically a bag of ass, yo. Like you're supposed to have like a guy that's supposedly the top fighter coming up from 135, eventually having a fight against the guy that's regarded as a top fighter at 140 pounds, and you're having it at the theater at Madison Square Garden.
Bro. And then, like, you hear people clamoring for this matchup. Why? Because he beat Arnold Barbosa? Respect to Arnold Barbosa, but if you compare Arnold Barbosa to Jaron, then it's just like, come on. Like, respectfully, the things that he was able to do in that fight, he's not going to do against Boots. And think about all the talented fighters at 40. 40 was one of the deepest divisions. Who did he really beat? Josh Taylor, injuries, layoffs, weight cuts. But there's a bunch of dudes at 40 that we wanted to see Teofimo Lopez fight, and he fought none of them. Literally. None.
Hey, my guy Ray mentioned one of those guys. What? Here's the other thing, too. You had Subriel Matias, right? You have Antoine. You had, a number of those other guys that have held titles at one point at 140 pounds, like Devin Haney, and yet you didn't want to fight any of those guys.
Seemed like you still don't want to fight that. Like you crash out with Turki like, bro, I'm sorry. There is nothing about Turki al-Ashiki that would make me think calling him a dictator would be good for my health overall.
It wouldn't.
Now, I'm gonna say this. I don't like Teofimo Lopez. I can't stand him. But Teofimo Lopez needs to be smart. I would not go over there if I was him. After that comment, I would not go over there. Life happens. Shit happens. Shit happens.
Yeah.
I would not go over there.
Yeah, I wouldn't even, even entertain that idea. But
yeah, this internet generation where we came from the era, and of course we're not old men, but we came from the era is what you said can manifest itself in the physical.
Exactly.
We all know what I'm saying. Like you had to stand on whatever you said because you would see people outside. And now now this internet generation where they talk crazy online, and then they in the same space. Nah, man.
See what is a lot I always bring up from JT Money, man. Flawed niggas talk shit, know they can't back it, know they ain't real, but always try to act it. You got a lot of those folks around in these internets, man. And that's the thing, man. I don't think Teofimo. It's like Teofimo Lopez doesn't realize that these comments could have long-term consequences. And because he hadn't gotten checked up to a certain point, he continues to do this. But sooner or later, he gonna end up learning. You know what I mean?
Hey, yo, I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna go for my walk, Jay. Appreciate you having me on, but
yeah, for sure.
all right. I saw he did a live where he called Boots and Bozy bozos, right? Here's what Teofimo don't understand. He's been playing these internet games with fighters that play internet games, the back and forth on Twitter. Boots ain't that dude.
Mm-hmm.
And Boots isn't the all shucks, smiling person that he presents himself in interviews. T.O. is going to keep playing around, and he's not going to get a boxing match. He's going to get fucked up in real life. He's not a nice kid, right? He smiles and all that shit.
Yeah.
I wouldn't classify Boots as a nice kid. T.O. is going to play a game that he's not ready for. And what did he say? What did Paul Heyman say? That's not a prediction. That's a spoiler.
Hey, and you know, of course, you had conversations on your lives and stuff like that, and you had what was it, brother Johnny, that was on with you the other day, and there have been some stories in reference to not Tio but Senior, and yeah, he don't want to go anywhere near the city after this. I don't think that would be a good idea at all. So even just with what you said, like him, his father, all of that, no, it wouldn't be a good idea at all.
My man Talk Trend said Boo should fight Tio. It'll be his first pay-per-view and big signature win. What makes him a signature win? Is he a signature win at 147 pounds, or he's a signature win for 135 and 40 pounders? Because it's the equivalent of saying, right, that if Jaron Ennis moved up and fought David Benavidez, would that be a signature win for Benavidez? That's a name, but would Benavidez get any credit for beating Jaron Ennis? No, because you expect it. That's literally the same dimensions that Benavidez has over Jaron Ennis as far as like length, height, is the same dimensions that Boots has over Tio.
It will be as we kind of mentioned earlier. Does Errol Spence Jr. get credit, or is it a notable win to have a win over Mikey Garcia?
Bro, he said Tio is a 4 king. Tio ain't no damn king.
No,
bro. The 4 kings. The 4 kings is Roberto Duran, Tommy Hearns, Ray. Like that's the 4 kings.
Yeah, those 4 kings. Like any mention of what we have now, no. Mm-hmm. And on top of that, whatever people try to refer to in this particular era, only Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney have basically fought like multiple guys are around that particular era.
Yo, so good point, JR. My man, Talking Trends. He hasn't fought anybody out of his group. Respect Ryan Garcia. Ryan Garcia literally fought 2 of them already. Mm-hmm. And I don't even think that highly of Ryan Garcia as a fighter, but the reality is, in order, like Tank's fought none. I'm sorry, Tank fought Ryan. I apologize. Mm-hmm. Tank fought Ryan. Mm-hmm. And okay, babe, I'm about to head up. But yeah, like he's not a 4. No, there's not a 4 king, bro. And respect to those guys for what they accomplished in his career. But I can't call them the 4 kings. Them niggas got to mix. They not mixing enough for me.
Mm-hmm. Like all of these guys are around that same class, and yet we can't get what 1 or 2 fights with any of them. That doesn't make any sense to me. And we talk about this thing here with initially here with Teofimo Lopez and Devin Haney. They're supposed to have some type of history. Wasn't it Teofimo Lopez that basically deemed Devin Haney a quote unquote email champion when he had that WBC title?
Yes, he did. I'm saying if you're going there with fucking devastating knockout artist. And Jaron Ennis, why you won't go in there with Dev? That's a rival. Name is comparable to Jaron Ennis. Oh, my bad. It's the check. You're not out for a win. You're out for a check. People need to realize that this is a paper chase. Go back and look at it. Crawford, Tank, now Boots. He's not searching for the best smoke. He's searching for the biggest possible bag, and he's working his way down the list because he don't draw, and he hasn't gotten paid what he feels like he deserves. And the only thing he gonna get messing around with Crawford and Jaron Ennis is a trip to I ain't even want to say a trip to the ER because it might be worse than that.
Might be.
But I got to head out, Junior. I appreciate you. Keep doing your thing.
For sure. It's my guy, Mr. YSM Sports Media. Of course, we got his shit on. Y'all check him out if you haven't done so already. You feel me? He'll keep you in the loop as far as like what's going down in Philly and all of that. You know what I mean? So
what
we got
real fast. Talk trends. You're gonna find out exactly why he's not doing it. He's gonna make his announcement. He's gonna address his fans or or haters, whatever, wherever you fall on those. All right, I'm out, y'all. Appreciate you.
All right, for sure. All right, so here's the thing, man. I mean, I get this next joint here, like Boots' first pay-per-view. We need this for Boots. I mean, like I said, it's not necessary. It's not in his radar. It's not something where, even if it was like a pay-per-view level thing, that's not what he's looking for. Brother YSM was on here and I said last year, it was brought up last year as a potential bout, but that was because Top Rank has basically been tired of Teofimo Lopez turning down these multiple fights. So they're basically trying to just, have him have a fight, get him out the way, get him out the pocket. So Boots wasn't really in the radar for something like that. The only reason why he is because it's something for, as they say, a favor about Teofimo Lopez. Now, once again with Teofimo, as I mentioned earlier, he is a WBO super champion at super lightweight. He could announce that he's moving up to welterweight and immediately challenge for the WBO welterweight title, and that's Brian Norman Jr. He was proposed that fight against Brian Norman Jr. and declined. He was proposed a fight against Subriel Matias. He declined. So the thing about it is like, why have anyone mentioned Teofimo Lopez with Boots Ennis when he could immediately challenge a world champion at welterweight in Brian Norman Jr., but he won't do it? You know what I mean? But says, hey, Teo is accomplished in boxing, but dude just ain't that guy. And he'll price himself out. And that's what he's been doing under multiple occasions over a course of years. We saw what happened after he defeated Vasily Lomachenko. He thought he was a guy. He thought he was a man. He thought he was, a number one, the dude at the top of the boxing chain. And then when he had an opportunity there at lightweight to be an actual undisputed lightweight champion and have a fight with Devin Haney, he didn't do that. He went ahead and tried to go the IBF mandatory route with George Kambosos Jr. And then when he went into negotiations with Top Rank about that fight, Top Rank told him, this is what you're worth. Teofimo Lopez said, no, I'm not. So they were like, okay, here's what it is. We'll wait for it to go to purse bid. Went to purse bid. Who had the lowest number? Top Rank. Who had the highest number? Triller. Teofimo thought he had something right there with that. And then Triller didn't end up having a fight. He ends up going under Matchroom Boxing to fight George Kambosos. Had a fight at the theater at Madison Square Garden, and we all know what happened there. He ended up losing. You know what I mean? So the thing about it is that Teofimo Lopez does not have the value that he feels like he has. It's not even close. That's the thing about it. No, This is regular the zone. He's been on the zone. That's it. It's not been pay-per-view. It's been absolutely zero pay-per-views with Boots Ennis. None. So that's the thing about it. Shout out to my guy Just Do Boxing in the building. You know what I mean? Shout out to you. Said he needs to be on pay-per-view. We'll see about that. We'll have something possibly in the works for all of that. But you know, that kind of like goes into the second thing there, what's going to be talked about. But with Teo, you have this opportunity to face a rival, so to speak, or one of these so-called kings that they were going to claim that we had here in this particular era, whether it involved Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney, Tank Davis, and, you know, could have potentially been Teofimo Lopez, because they were around the time as the guys to be talked about. The only thing was Shakur Stevenson just had gotten himself in the mix. But even with those four people that I mentioned, Ryan Garcia has been the only one to face more than one fighter out of the list. That's it. That's it. Teo hasn't faced any of those guys, not one. But yet, he not even going up against any of those guys, yet there should be some type of reasoning for him to face a guy that has established himself in the 147-pound division, became the IBF mandatory challenger, looking to have a fight with, at the time, Errol Spence Jr., but then we knew that what ended up happening was you're going to have Errol Spence going up against Terrence Crawford for Undisputed. Undisputed happens in 2023, and guess what? It's the IBF. The IBF follows through with what they have for their mandatory. So once it's called, it is what it is. Terrence Crawford was the IBF champion. Hey, if he wants to rematch with Errol Spence, cool. But you ain't going to have that IBF title. So he ends up getting the IBF championship. Headlines a few fights. So you're talking about a guy that has headlined, what has it been, 4? Because he had the fight in Atlantic City initially, right? Roy Menvilla, then the David Evanesian, Karen Chikazian, and then Iamana Sanyonis. Main event 4 fights. And had good to great attendance in all of those fights, in comparison to Teofimo Lopez, who can barely pack any of the stadiums that he's been in where he's headlined. So that's a whole different thing. You know what I mean? So yeah. So there shouldn't be any type of affiliation between those two. And that's why I said here we should just go ahead and end it once and for all, done. And you heard from YSM that we should be getting some news in reference to Jaron Boots Ennis here real soon, because it doesn't necessarily have to deal with Teofimo Lopez, but it also deals with another fighter that I mentioned here that is in the welterweight division that also has mentioned Boots' name on a number of occasions, but yet wasn't able to go forward with the fight with Jaron Boots Ennis. But back to this thing here with Teo, right? You still have Teo and Devin going back and forth. I don't know what the latest is. You got to figure out what's going on with all that, because Devin Haney had a little bit of a post a few hours ago, talking about like there's on the menu a few ducks and a few chickens, and we said multiple times that he would handle Teofimo Lopez, but you have to see if there's something that could be secured in reference to that particular fight. And as he mentioned, the money for a fight with Devin Haney ain't the same as the number 4 fight with Boots Ennis. And because of that, Teofimo Lopez is being reluctant. But again, we're talking about Teofimo Lopez. What does someone say up here? I saw it here earlier. What he's been doing a number of times, he's been pricing himself out. As long as he continues to do that, we shouldn't even really be, mentioning Teo affiliated with anybody in a fight with anybody, like not even the guys at 140, because there you go, he's going to price himself out. Even if we talked about a potential fight with Silvio Matias or Alberto Puello or Gary Antoine Russell or Richardson Hitchens, I could go down the line, or Liam Perro or another contender there at 140. one way or another, I feel like Teo is going to price himself out. And it looks like he's doing the same thing right here. So here's what it is, right? The whole amateur joint, man, I don't know anything about all that because, yeah, he don't. The thing, what Teal fought like a Malik Montgomery, Jermaine Ortiz. He's fought those guys there, in the amateurs. But Jaron Ennis, no, he's not in that particular class though. No, all right. So that's the thing there that I had in reference to those two particular topics, right? Because I'm ready to just put this thing to bed once and for all. Like, let's not talk about it. There shouldn't be any reason to talk about it. I did have some comments in reference to Mr. Dan Canobio because he was the one that kind of brought up, is Boots ducking Teo on the post that he had the other day. And I'm like, you're supposed to be a media member, a reporter, a columnist, or something of that nature, but yet you don't do research on a backstory between these two fighters and why this is even brought up in the first place. But yet you're going to go by what Teofimo Lopez posts. Bad move there, Dan Canobio. Just saying that. Bad move. Okay. So, yeah, we should just go ahead and put it to bed. It's done, finished, kaput, all that type of stuff. All right. Now, big ups for everyone that's listening live here on the Boxing Source Midweek Report. We just, chopping it up here, man. We got a few days here before we got on Amazon Prime Video, the doubleheader that's going to be going down on that one, man. We got Caleb Plant that's going to be in action against Armando Resendiz. We got Jermall Charlo that's going to be fighting Thomas Cornflake Lamana, right? And, the thing is like, yeah, we would have thought that we would have Plant versus Charlo, but, Charlo is still saying maybe, one fight here first before, I get in the mix with someone like a Caleb Plant, right? But with that being said, these fights here, we check the odds. Yeah, they ain't looking all too hot, man. I mean, look at Caleb Plant. Caleb Plant is a 24-1 favorite against Armando Resendiz. That's right. He is at freaking minus 2,400. And Jose Resendiz is at plus 1,120 on the books on FanDuel. Those are crazy odds. This ain't like nothing like a Jaime Munguia versus who was it? Bruno Sorachi. It ain't nowhere near nothing like that. You feel me? So I have no idea like why some folks may say that Resendiz could get an upset because the other day on Real Boxing with Coach Ronnie Shields, my co-host there, Brother Joseph Heron of War Week Boxing, said he was going to put a little bit on Armando Resendiz. Here real quick, I got my great columnist here, the chef, a.k.a. manager, a.k.a. security guy, we got, of course, what is it, Bozy Hitmaker that's going to be on a Rhythm Music Festival over in Florida. You got the little icon there, but it's the Chef Terrell, man. What's going on?
Hey, first of all, I just want to say thanks to you. As you see what's right there, that's directly as a result of who you know. So most appreciated. Most appreciated.
Doc, man, like I said, man, we trying to, get the name there, Bozy out there, Bozy Hitmaker in the building. You'll get him appearances to perform, out there in these events, in Florida and beyond. So, we just start, getting the thing here and then, see if we can secure some other joints out here to, get his name out. You feel me? So, that's just part of it. I have some connections. I'll be able to call a few folks and then, see about, getting them into some of these joints. You feel me?
Yeah, even though it's a local booking, your next booking is the most important booking. As long as you got another one, right?
There you go.
That's how we look at it. So, but anyways, what's going on, bro? What's going on, big homie? What's going on?
Man, I've been, trying to put this whole Teofimo Lopez talk to rest once and for all. I want him like out of the boxing picture once and for all. Like all of the antics that he's been doing over the years is just absolutely, foolish. Basically acting like an asshole. And like I said, a couple of weekends ago, or not a couple of weekends ago, but a couple of weeks ago, when I talked with the WBO president, Gustavo Olivieri, and I called him pretty much into question about Teofimo Lopez and his comments. I said, look, he's representing the WBO as the WBO super lightweight champion. Do you want your organization to have that on your record? And it's something where he said, like, he has to, put that under review. But as of right now, haven't really seen much, going on yet in reference to that. And what that reminded me of was Teofimo Lopez isn't just the WBO super lightweight champion. He is a Ring Magazine super lightweight champion. So what does Ring Magazine have to say about Teofimo Lopez and his actions? I wonder. That's another story.
So let's pose this question. Out of all the sanctioning bodies, it's not hard to guess who's been the worst. And sometimes that flops on between we back Canelo and another one, right? But would I be correct in saying that the WBO has to been the most solid, making the most sane decisions?
No, because in the past the WBO has been sued and have lost lawsuits because of their ranking system and how they carried their ranking system. I think it was what was it? A former champion there that was able to win a lawsuit on the WBO, and that's in the past there. So I would say it's the IBF, because the IBF, adheres to their rules by the letter and will strip anybody regardless of who they are. Ask Canelo Alvarez multiple times, So that's the thing I get from, as far as like how the sanctioning bodies carry themselves in comparison to others around there. But, here with the WBO, like I want to see if they're able to, once they talk about what we've seen from Teofimo Lopez, if they make a decision that says like, hey, we don't want you representing the World Boxing Organization. So that particular title that you have, it doesn't matter what the percentage we get from your purse, we're going to remove that from you.
Yeah, and that was my next notion right there. Like, are they just after the money? Because we know the WBC has made many belts in emeritus, recession, and all kind of 25 different ways you can make a belt.
Champion in recess, franchise champion, all of that. Yeah.
And we know that that's all in order to get a sanction fee and just line their pockets up like that. I don't recall too many things like that where the WBO has done that. I'm sure you can definitely recall that for me, right? So I mean, but this right here, like to me, it goes back to a question we talked about a month ago about Turkey Alish, right? Is he good or bad for boxing, right? He claims that he's definitely good for boxing. He's taking on the Ring magazine. So no matter what, that magazine, the Ring magazine, will somewhat have his narrative out there right there for him like that. I commend him for we've had some great cards that we probably would have never seen. That's just being honest, being real, right? But now in a fight like this where Boots Ennis and my man right here, you know what I'm talking about. So, yeah, Tio. Do we need this fight? No. Is it a fantasy matchup? No. Right? So why are we having it? I mean, like I said, we talked about before a few weeks ago with Ennis. We know he just beat Stanionis. He got two belts now. Barrios locked up to fight Pacquiao, and Brian Numbers going overseas. So he wants to fight champions. So he's in a sense has a lull right now, right? With Tio just come off his fight in Madison Square Garden. I think it fit the speed of what Barboza, I believe it was.
Yeah, Barboza there in Times Square, whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah, but so Tio, he has fights in his own weight class, whether it be Haney or other people like that are likely available to him right now. Hell, him and Haney fought on the same card, so why can't they get together, right? Because we already know that at this point, the Tio, well Haney, damn, what's my name? Brian Garcia, that's dead right now. That's dead right now. And honestly, if I'm Tio, I'm pushing hard to fight Devin Haney after what performance he just gave us. I'm pushing hard for that fight just to get that out the way. and I think that Tio will go into that fight with tons of confidence and will likely win that fight against Devin Haney. So, so look at now
You
enter
think that?
Haney or Tio Ennis. What is that all about? Money, money. As for a real season paycheck, which is going to be a lot no more normal than fighting Haney and stuff like that. So, really, to me, it's just about money. And I said, do we
Yep.
need to fight? No, we don't. We don't.
Yep. And the thing is like Teofimo Lopez, you missed when YSM was on, and he said it's basically that Teofimo Lopez knows that he's not going to get the money to fight Devin Haney that he would have got if he would have potentially fought Boots Ennis. And now he's balking at that and acting like a crybaby, like he's done before. You know, he feels like he's worth more than he actually is, and we've seen on multiple occasions in the events that he's had that he does not garner the attention that he feels like he should be paid a certain rate. So going up against the Devin Haney, where hey, you're going up against your potential or your supposed rival, a guy that, as I mentioned before, that you talked about after you had a win against Vasily Lomachenko and said, hey, you know what? I'm the quote unquote supposed undisputed champion because I got all of these belts, even though Devin Haney was the actual WBC champion. Why didn't you go ahead and just prove it and go after Devin Haney? No, you went over and you tried to fight George Kambosos Jr. So you have that history with Devin Haney, and now you don't want to go ahead and try to prove yourself because you feel like you're not getting paid enough for that particular fight. Come on,
Yeah.
that's foolish.
And I'm sure you covered it. So in the event that Henny, I'm sorry, Tio does fight Ennis, would that be that's going to be for Ennis's both belts at 147, right? And does Tio retain his?
It would have been potentially, but that fight ain't. There's no way, no how, no chance, no shot, nothing that particular fight happens. None.
Hmm.
Zero.
Because
We've kind of danced around it, me and YSM, but the likely move is that he'll end up going to 154 pounds. Likely. But in order for that to happen, a few things have to be, done first within this particular division for that to potentially go forward. Okay, but yeah, if it's not a unification, like he said this multiple times, unifications are nothing with Boots
yep,
Ennis. Like even before his rematch with Karen Chikazian, what was he trying to do then? He was trying to get a unification bout with either Mario Barrios or Brian Norman Jr. He couldn't get either of them at the time, so he ended up fighting Karen Chikazian. Then the next fight, that was basically an ultimatum, particularly to Matchroom Boxing, because he had three fights, a three-fight deal with one option. It was going to be his third fight. If he didn't get a unification bout in his third fight, there would have been any shot for Matchroom Boxing to retain Jerome Boots Ennis after that. So for Eddie Hearn, he had to be able to fulfill that for his client. So it was either Brian Norman or it was Iman Stanionis. And well, Brian Norman just ended up not taking the fight, and we ended up getting Iman Stanionis. So after that particular fight, then soon after, we find out that Brian Norman Jr. is in negotiations to fight a Jin Sasaki instead of having a unification bout with Boots Ennis. So your Boots Ennis, you had two belts. You already know that Mario Barrios is going to be fighting Manny Pacquiao in July. You know that now that Brian Norman is going to be fighting Jin Sasaki in June. So you won't be able to get either one of these fighters until maybe October at the absolute earliest, or maybe sometime in November. Are you willing to wait until then? And then you still don't have a guarantee that you're going to be able to secure a fight with either one of those guys because of what they could potentially ask for in that fight. So at this point, kind of makes a little bit more sense to just go ahead and say, hey, let me try my shot at the 154-pound division. Which, if he does that, it would make sense at this point.
Well, take a look back at Ennis and Brian Norman Jr. It was about what, a good 6 months. 6 months ago, they were trying to make that fight. Uh, what was the framework of the offer they were offering Brian Norman Jr.? Now, granted, he's still he has a belt.
Okay.
We know that.
Okay.
He's not a he does have a great following like that. We know that, but he's a
Mhm.
champion, and
Mhm.
that's his calling card right there, right? So,
Mhm.
is his bargaining power less or the same if he goes over to Japan and wins that fight?
I would say it's the same because you look at Brian Norman Jr. He comes up. He has an undefeated record. He has the showing that he has against Giovanni Cabrera, and becomes the WBO interim champion at the time, and then is elevated to become full champion. Now, at that particular time, Top Rank viewed Brian Norman Jr. as a fighter that isn't ready to headline in a fight card yet. He was originally slated to fight Derek Cuevas on November 8th or whatever it was last year, over in Norfolk, Virginia, to be on the undercard of Keyshawn Davis versus Gustavo Lemos. So you're talking about a guy that is recently been crowned a WBO welterweight champion, and yet he's going to be on the undercard of Keyshawn Davis versus Gustavo Lemos. But due to Brian Norman Jr. getting injured, he gets removed from that card, and then eventually is put in this card that was on March at the end of March with Michaela Mayer and Sandy Ryan. So that right there is what Brian Norman Jr. is at this point. Okay. Yeah, and that's the thing. There you go. His own promoters don't believe in him. That's why he hasn't headlined the card yet. They haven't even necessarily said, "Hey, you know what? Let's see if we can try him out, headline him in a bout, possibly in his hometown in Atlanta." Okay, couldn't necessarily do that yet. I'll follow up on that as far as like who I could talk to within Top Rank. But we know the current situation with Top Rank right now as far as like their network deal. So all we got is what? Let's see. We're in May, we got June, and then we got the end of July, and that's the end of their deal with ESPN. So would they try to invest whatever they have left in their budget towards Brian Norman Jr. if they're unsure about where they're going to be after July? At least for me, I don't think so. So you go ahead and you shop them around. Okay. If they have something here with Jen Sasaki, cool. But to this point, if you're Top Rank and you think that Brian Norman Jr. is the guy that could potentially fight and defeat Boots Ennis, right? And people kind of bring this up a lot with Brian Norman Jr. and the negotiations with Jerome Boots Ennis is that one, that as a promotional company, you take 30% of the fighter's purse if they go outside of your thing, right? And you have the whole thing with the management company and all that type of stuff. Yes, we talked with Adrian Clark. Shout out Adrian Clark, great dude. All right. Actually, I think he has Earthstrong today or something like that. But they can take their percentage. Promotional team can take their percentage. My question is this: if you know that you've been offered a certain amount of money for a fight with Boots Ennis, where you have to go outside of your promotional company to do that, and you know what you got to be paid for it. My question is, why isn't Top Rank able to put up the money that it would take for you where they don't take 30%? So, for example, if I say, and this has been kind of released on multiple occasions, that there was an offer that was sent out to Brian Norman Jr. that was $1.7 million. Okay. You can take percentages off of that and say, okay, let me see. 1.7, let me get my Mr. Calculators on, right? 1.7, and then you take away 30%. So that's around what? Over 500K? So with that being said, if you know that you're gonna get take home is initially like 1.2 before your management team does what they do, Why couldn't you get Top Rank to get you something where they put up 1.1 to 1.2 million dollars so that they handle your side of the purse and Matchroom handles their side of the purse, and then you have the unification fight? That's the question that should be raised. But as I mentioned earlier, with Top Rank right now, we don't know where they're going to be after July. July 26th, to be exact, is their last show under ESPN. So why is it that you want to have another promotional company that's not even affiliated with you basically bail you out?
Well, that tells you a lot about how they actually view him, a lot about their confidence in him as a fighter and his ability to be able to hold that belt. That tells a hell of a lot right there. That tells you that they're not confident in him, and that tells you that he has a belt. Let him be where he is right now. He does have a lot of market value. He doesn't bring a lot of ass to the seats or to the gate. So he has a belt. Let him be happy with that. So, and that kind of goes back to when him and Ennis were when Ennis were trying to negotiate with him. He's trying to get a higher number. That way, he just get most as he can. And let me ask you a question. And if you're, I'm Brian. I'm in Brian Norman Jr.'s camp, right? And we're looking at the landscape. And of course, the top dog right now is Ennis. Do people in their camp saying that's a bad matchup for us? We don't want to take that fight right now. Let us continue to build and make money by taking other fights, whether it be Japan or somewhere else, or even undercard fights, and just build our money up until we can bring our value up, right? Do you think people actually say that? I mean, I'm sure it's true. Look at Munguia. How long was he at? What, floated? What, 160, 168, fighting pretty much nobodies, making all kind of good money, and nine going for the title fight, which is crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Until you got the Canelo fight. So I know they definitely do that to a degree, but once again with Top Rank, that just definitely tells you on what they really think about him. So he's only gonna have that belt for so long. Let's just put him on. And like I said, he's a champion at 147, and you're on the undercard of a Michaela Mayer fight. That's very telling right there.
There you go. There you go, man. Shout out to my guy J Powell on in the building, man. Salute to you, man. Hey, don't forget about that idea that you got there, Jay, man, in reference to the cards. So we'll link together in reference to those cards, man. Of course, you card collecting. So we could probably come up with something here with the sport. So don't forget about that. But yeah, you mentioned it there with Brian Norman Jr. being on the undercard of Michaela Mayer versus Sandy Ryan 2 in Las Vegas at the Fountain Blue or whatever it was. That shows where they feel like your value is at this particular point. Or they're saying, hey, at this time, we can't invest this amount of money towards you to try to build you up being the WBO welterweight champion. But yeah, that's still crazy. When have you ever seen? I can't remember any instance where a welterweight champion in the men's division is on an undercard of a women's fight, or women's title fight, or whatever it is. I can't remember.
And I'm guessing I'm guessing you probably would have got maybe $500,000 for that fight, maybe.
But like I've never seen it in history. I don't know, man. I might have to ask a couple people that's boxing historians that go through the records of fights and all of that, and maybe they could say something. But I've never seen it. You know what I mean? And yeah, see, tried to feed Norman to Santillan already. Yeah, I mean they tried it. Because before that, Norman was in a no contest bout, against what is it, Janelson Boca Chica or something like that. So, yeah, that's why you said they really believe in Norman, man. Yeah, Haysom Sim, yeah, Joe's fine, man. He was on the show the other day. We have our the thing is with the weekly show Tuesdays with Coach Ronnie Shields. It is on this channel here, not on the War Week radio channel. So he's we still like on there as a co-host with Coach Ronnie Shields, but we have that weekly show here on the Boxing Source YouTube channel. You can go back to see the past couple of shows here that we've had with Coach Ronnie Shields. Yeah, so that's the thing, man, is that if you have a fighter that is a welterweight champion and your current situation when it comes to your network deal, you're not going to necessarily go, all out as far as like investing in a fighter if you don't know what your future is from a networking perspective, or a network perspective, that is. So that's where you kind of like say, okay, are we trying to make Brian Norman Jr. a transitional champion by seeing if he can get a fight with Jermall Ennis? That shouldn't be cool, because you got Brian Norman at around like 24 years old. So he has like a big future at this particular point. Why give him up already as a world champion when you could just have him sit and chill out and could potentially be a unified or maybe undisputed welterweight champion if he waits a couple years? So that's what I got.
And look in comparison. Look at the same thing, top rank. Keyshawn, what, 13-0? How many knockouts? But he has a base. He has a good solid base, and is fighting at home, and along with his brothers and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And Top Rank is pretty much all in on him for the most. So the question is, does Brian Norman Jr. have the style that they can actually get behind him? Is he limited? What do you think?
Well, they thought he was kind of limited. I really felt like they thought he would lose to Giovanni Cabrera, because they put him in there. Giovanni Cabrera, what was it? It was pretty much close to or at his hometown for Cabrera, right? Santillan, not Cabrera, Santillan. And they felt like, oh, okay, it goes up against Santillan. It's over there in like San Diego, and it's more of like something where they feature Santillan in that instance. So they really did not expect Brian Norman Jr. to get a win there in that particular bout, and it ended up being a devastating knockout win for Brian Norman Jr. But at the same token, that didn't build enough momentum to carry over and say, hey, let's see if we could do something with Brian Norman Jr. No, it said he's a WBO interim champion at the time. Then he gets elevated to WBO full champion. And now we're like, okay, do we have him featured in a main event, or do we put him in a co-feature in some of these, fight cards? We don't see right now. We evaluate him as this particular value. And so we're going to put him in this card, on this undercard. And that's what they view him as, at least at that particular point. Fast forward to now, when you know that you have the end of your deal with ESPN, you're not going to invest so much money into Brian Norman Jr. or have whatever's left in your budget towards Brian Norman Jr. if you might not have that in your budget, and two, you don't know what's going to be later on down the line with ESPN. So yeah, it's a interesting situation there for Brian Norman Jr. at this point, but we'll have to see what he does here against Jin Sasaki on June 19th. That's in the middle of the week. I think, the middle of the week over there in Japan. So yeah. Jesus has some comments in reference to Devin Haney. I'm like, come on, man. Like, what y'all got against Devin Haney, man? Come on. All right, I want to get further on here with the show. I was saying here before Brother Terrell got on, you had a fight card coming up March 31st, Michelob ULTRA Arena, Las Vegas. Caleb Plant is going up against Armando Resendiz, and you're going to have Jermall Charlo going up against Thomas Lamana. And, well, the matchups here, Charlo and Plant are high, like real big favorites here in their bouts. And here with this one, it's a 24-1 favorite for Caleb Plant. Is there any shot that Resendiz could get the win? I mean, he said he's prepared for this bout. They've had, sparring sessions together and all that type of stuff. But you're talking about Armando Resendiz that has pretty much like competed at the 154 and 160-pound divisions against a Caleb Plant who has been a former IBF champion at super middleweight, and now has the WBA interim championship. Actually, he's at Mercedes has competed above 160 pounds. It's just his recent bouts that he's had with Jared Hurd and Elijah Garcia. They were, below 168-pound limit, but his level of competition, of course, is nowhere near what Caleb Plant has been able to do in his professional career at this point. I don't see like that many people giving Armando Resendiz much of a chance here to, win against Caleb Plant. And I think the styles, that Resendiz has, he's like tailor-made for a mover like Caleb Plant is. You know what I mean?
Well, I think that we know what to expect with Caleb Plant. He's a tough, rugged fighter, right? Do I want to say technical? He's a good fighter for the generation right now, right? So for him, I view this as a stay busy fight. So this card really is about Charlo to me. It's well documented that he's been out for quite some time, troubles outside the ring, things like that. We know that. So like I said, this card is really all about him and how good he's gonna look. So I don't know much about this guy that he's fighting, right? But hoping he can look good against this guy. Hoping this guy can give us some rounds that we can get a good gauge on where he's at right now as far as being up at 168 for the first time like that. Is he strong? Does he have his mobility? Does he have those things that we known him for back at 160? So really, like just about Charlo and how does he look? Because we know that in the event that both guys win, we expect to see them back in the ring against each other.
Yeah.
But saying that if Charlo was in there looking raggedy, slow, out of shape, something in the body, it's not going to be a good look for in the process for Charlo get that fight. Because in that sense, get that probably just run him over.
Look like you.
So,
Hold up. Look like you're chopping up there a little bit. Like you're on the road and stuff like that. But we'll see if we could get more. I mean, I was able to hear most of what you were talking about. Reference to Jermall Charlo, like I said, he's been competing at 154 pounds, a world champion at 154, world champion at 160 pounds. Now he's campaigning at 168 and has his bout against Thomas Omana. With that being said, we got to see how he looks because he's going to have a new trainer there, Highland Williams Sr. Instead of Coach Ronnie Shields. Of course, Jermall Charlo used to be under Coach Ronnie Shields for a long time, but after these past couple of months, it's not there anymore. So now you're gonna see Highland Williams Sr. as the trainer, therefore Jermall Charlo in this particular bout against Thomas Omana, and you got to see like if he gets something new being with Highland Williams Sr. or is he still gonna have what he's used to having. They're one of the better jabs in boxing, or at least within those weight classes. Therefore, Jermall Charlo, and if that's going to work to be or kind of lead to more against the Thomas Omana, who has been a contender of sorts within 160 pounds or whatever it is, but a lot of people know Thomas Omana getting chin checked by Erislan Lara and getting flattened basically in that bout. So that's why, even with those odds too, those are wide odds as well, as they have, Jermall Charlo as high as a 16-1 favorite and Thomas Omana at a 8-1 underdog in a lot of the sports books there. So, we got the was a press conference thing that's, coming up there for that. They had the workouts for this particular fight card that's out there. So, a number of people are just looking to see, okay, is Jermall Charlo at a good enough spot right now to where if they do have a fight between Jermall Charlo and Caleb Plant, that it would be, somewhat competitive or something to where they say, hey, maybe Jermall Charlo does have a shot here to go ahead and get the win. And I know that, people are talking about, the slap her around the world that, Caleb Plant had for Jermall Charlo. But, at least at this particular time, all of that stuff is kind of like gotten cleared up. And both of them are like patient enough to just go ahead and have these fights. And then after they get, they take care of business, then we'll be able to see those two match up probably around November or something like that. That could be, what we have there in reference to that. Now, those are like the two co-main events there that's going to be on Amazon Prime Video. You're also going to have in the middleweight division, you're going to have Yuenli Hernandez versus Kyron Davis. And, some folks aren't giving Kyron much of a shot against Yuenli Hernandez. What can he do to get the win? I mean, Kyron has been able to compete against, Anthony Durrell had his fight against David Benavidez in 2021. But then, got back into the mix when he was able to defeat Elijah Garcia last year. Handed Elijah Garcia his first loss. It was a split decision win, but it wasn't anywhere near a split decision. There ain't no way that you could have Elijah Garcia winning 4 rounds, much less 8 of those 10 rounds, as one of those judges had for Elijah Garcia in that bout. But now you're going to have him going up against Yuenli Hernandez, who is 7-0 with 7 of those wins by way of knockout. I saw him in the fight card February 1st in Las Vegas against Angel Ruiz, and yeah, he just beat up Angel Ruiz. And the thing is, there's been a lot of talk about Yuenli Hernandez coming from Cuba, now residing in Providence, Rhode Island, and he's been doing work, over in the camps in Houston. He's been in a camp there with Canelo Alvarez, among many others, and man, they're saying he's the goods. They're saying he's the goods, man. I mean, you got, of course, Ruiz, right? Andy Ruiz, or not Andy Ruiz, but Andy Cruz, right? And then you got, of course, David Morrell Jr. Now you could have Yuenli Hernandez here as another one of those fighters that, is part of the new wave of Cuban fighters that could really, do their damage here in the sport of boxing. Excuse me. So it's going to be a real big challenge here for Kyron Davis. I know he's been doing work there with, Stephen Breadman Edwards. They've been out there in Las Vegas. Of course, Breadman Edwards is also, training Caleb Plant. So you're having both of those guys doing work out there in Las Vegas. And, with Kyron Davis, he knows that this is, the spot where he could get in a position to fight for a world title. And so they're saying, you know what? Here you can have this opportunity. If you get a win over Yuenli Hernandez, and that could be next up, because Yuenli Hernandez is basically ranked number 1 in the WBA in the 160-pound division right now. So if Kyron Davis gets this win, he should be right there in the mix to fight for a world title there at 160 pounds. So you got that there coming up, right? Other fights that they got on slate for that, right, is you got Jermall Moulton that's going to be on the fight card. You got John Easter that's on the fight card as well. I said earlier that I may be speaking with John Easter's coach here tomorrow. Be tomorrow evening, scheduled around 7 o'clock. I got to be able to see if I can confirm that since they're, going to have the whole thing with the presser or whatever and all that. But if he's able to do that, we're going to have, his coach on here, of course. And there's still like a lot of fights that'll be on the card. I don't know how many is going to be on Amazon Prime Video. They're probably going to have 4 of those fights on the Amazon Prime Video joint, but maybe on their, YouTube channel there for Premier Boxing Champions, you'll be able to see some of those fights that they do have on the fight card. So, that's the thing about it. So tomorrow, scheduled for tomorrow, Coach Bob Santos, there's for around 7 p.m. Eastern time. So we'll see if we could go ahead and lock that down. Brother Terrell is back in the mix here. So that's what you got here for that May 31st card. All right. other thing I got here so far is we had Terrence Crawford made comments with or had an interview with Akim Barak. I have to see if I could get this thing. I think you got feedback there, Terrell. Hold on a second. Terrence Crawford spoke with Akim Barak and made comments on how much money he accepted to get in the ring against Santoso Alvarez Barragan. Is he capping or not? Yeah, he talked with Akim Barak, and they were trying to get the financials out of Terrence Crawford, and he said he looked at him, did not he he looked at him and he said $10 million to fight Canelo Alvarez. And even if you saw like the beginning of the interview, because that like Akim Barak and Terrence Crawford, they've had a number of conversations before. They have like a little bit of rapport. A little bit is kind of like understating it. So you're seeing like how they kind of like communicate with each other and insert in jokes here and there or whatever it is. And then when Akim Barak asks a serious question like that, and then Terrence Crawford gives them an answer like $10 million, they look at him like, ain't no way we believe that. No way we believe that. And they try to follow up with it. And he said, hey, man, it's all about the legacy and all that type of stuff. But for me, it's like, wait, so you mean to tell me that you're going to be in the middle of a fight against the quote-unquote face of boxing, as some may say, in Canelo Alvarez, and you're saying that you accepted the same amount of money that you basically got for fighting Errol Spence Jr. in 2023?
Yeah, I don't think nobody believes that. Nobody did. That don't make no sense because this even coming off that fight with Errol Spence, his market value went up in a sense. But at the same time, we know we need opponents to make the fight. A side and the B side. So even Madrimov, I don't know what he made for that, but bottom line, his stock is still up. Even fighting Madrimov, his stock is still up.
Mm-hmm.
So going to fight the face of boxing and the type of money that we know that Turkey gave to Canelo in order to get him on these cards, the next four fights for Canelo, that's big money. So like for example, I'm just taking a guess for this fight. Let's say Canelo Williams Skull. I'm going to take a guess and say Canelo probably made 20, 30 million for that. That's just a guess. Could be wrong. But in order to fight a Crawford, his number goes up. So if his number goes up to say 40 million to fight Crawford. Crawford's not fighting for 10. We know that. Come on now. we know that.
Canelo, in order to fight over in Saudi Arabia, it was much more than $30 million. Much more. And even with that being said, because it was over in Saudi Arabia, that increased the price. And now he's going up against Terrence Crawford, which is a fight that, I guess people within boxing are kind of, building a buzz for it. You want to go ahead and have much more than 10 million for a fight of that magnitude. That's crazy. And that's the thing about it, Now, Alberto kind of disagrees. He said buzz value didn't go up. He couldn't sell out the stat card in LA with Madrimov. Yeah, I mean, you had that fight over at BMO Stadium in Los Angeles, and even with the card that had what was it? Andrew Ruiz and Jarrell Miller, and you had David Morrell Jr. on the card. You had Isa Cruz versus Raul Valenzuela on the card. You had Martin McCauley versus Jared Anderson on the card, and you pretty much like they say on the books it was $2 million for Terrence Crawford. That's on the books in the state of California via the California State Athletic Commission. That's what they put on the paper that Terrence Crawford got in the purse in that particular bout. But we know that it was much more than that. You know what I mean? And I mean, giving away cars and Eminem and a lot of people arrived when Eminem was in there, but after that, they weren't staying for the Madrimov fight. You know what I mean? But I know somebody I talked with somebody, of course, that actually was in there from the first bout to the very last bout. Ain't no way I'm staying no 8 hours plus for no fight card. That ain't happening. Sorry, that ain't happening. So here with Terrence Crawford in what would be, of course, the biggest bout of the year, probably one of the biggest bouts that we've had in the past, 5 to 10 years at the very least, at least 10 years. Let's say since we had Mayweather versus Pacquiao, it could probably be the biggest fight since Mayweather versus Pacquiao 10 years ago. And yet you're going to expect people to believe that you accepted $10 million to face Canelo Alvarez.
Cap.
Come on, man. Nah, dog. I don't see it. I don't see it. So, I mean, Terrence Crawford has this opportunity to become, one of the fighters, that would kind of like define this generation. If he gets a win over Canelo Alvarez, it's just that I don't feel like $10 million would be enough for him to kind of like say, hey, I'm going up here to have this particular bout against Canelo. Now, I just don't see it.
When you look at it on the Canelo side, as we say in boxing, to take the Crawford fight, high risk, little reward. And it's for Crawford, high risk, high reward. So, and keep in mind, he's basically coming up from 147, 154. So we know Crawford's going to come in bigger. We don't know how much bigger as far as how his weight and things like that. That's likely the reason why he's been taking his time to get to this fight. So he just naturally build up that weight, and we just won't bulk on like with things we saw in the past, like with Roy Jones Jr. Just bulked on like that, and it was pretty much shot after that. So that's why he's taking his time. But on his side, it's a high risk and a high reward. And like we always say, they make weight classes for a reason. We know that.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't want to just assume, even though Terrence Crawford's a great fighter, I'm not just going to assume he's going to come in and just blow Canelo out. That's not going to happen. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. So, So same thing on his side, high risk, high reward. So he needs to be compensated for taking that risk. So, like I said, $10 million, that just doesn't get it. It doesn't get it.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Shout out to my guy there, Bruce Gas, Boxer Jazz, and more in the building. And yeah, hey, I just received that. Envelope, man. So here pretty soon I'll be able to partake in the goodies or something like that there that I was able to receive there. So shout out to Bruce Gas here in the building, man. But yeah, Terrence Crawford knows what is in front of him. Here with this challenge against Canelo Alvarez. And yes, it will be for the undisputed super middleweight championship. Coming up from 154 pounds. I mean, that's a definite challenge. Yes, you have been doing some work with guys that are around the 168-pound division and Steven Nelson and with Lester Martinez. But that is a completely different aspect than to facing a guy that is actually younger than you, but has more fights than you, has more experience than you, and has been around fighters that are, bigger than you, pause, or whatever it is, right? But, from a skill perspective, he might feel like he could have a shot against Canelo Alvarez at this particular juncture. It's just that for me, I don't feel like $10 million is enough given the potential amount of money that the fight could generate. I just don't see him accepting $10 million like that. Not when you went ahead and you had a fight with Errol Spence Jr. for that same amount for undisputed. So I can't buy it. You know what I mean? What else ahead on the slate, man? We got like a few other fights on the schedule here. I talked about the fight card that's on Amazon Prime Video, not Amazon Prime pay-per-view, but Amazon Prime Video. You're also going to have a Golden Boy Promotions card on Friday. So you could look for it. Darius Fulgham versus Beck the Bully, their Beck Batir Malakuziev. There we also have, as mentioned yesterday, Joshua Edwards that's going to be fighting Alexander Rose on there, as Joshua Edwards is a fighter that recently has been on the camp there with Coach Ronnie Shields. So that is part of the Golden Boy Promotions card on Friday, May 30th, and then you got the Amazon Prime Video fight card that is on Saturday, May 31st. And we did, at least I missed the title fight that was earlier today. There with Nunez getting the IBF belt. So that's something there where I have to go ahead and catch that fight. Eduardo Nunez got a decision victory over Masanori Rikishi to become the IBF Super Featherweight Championship, and that could potentially lead to a bout between him and Raymond Ford. So be on the lookout for that there as well. So I had to catch up on those fights that happened over in Japan today. And see, this is the thing with it being on Wednesday, right? This is the thing that I have to watch out for, because this fight card was today. And as I mentioned, Brian Norman Jr. versus Jin Sasaki, that particular fight is going to be on a Wednesday over in Japan. So it's like, oh man, you mean to tell me that I'm going to have to wake up early in the morning or be up at like 3 a.m. in order to watch this fight between Brian Norman Jr. and Jin Sasaki? It's gonna be Thursday. So it'll be early Thursday that I'll have to be up in order to watch that fight. Man, that's gonna be a stretch. I mean, we've done it when it's Naoya Inoue or whatever it is. But this time it's like all of these fights over in Japan, man. It's an absolute stretch to try to make that happen, man. You know what I mean? Shout out my guy Android in the building. Bud going penny for penny and a full report on all the sales of goods in the arena for Spence, but takes a flat 10 million for it. Yep, you're right. That's exactly right. You mean to tell me that he wants to go over the financials of in a fight there with Errol Spence Jr., but it takes a flat fee for Canelo Alvarez? Come on, man. Oh, man. Man, I had an interview there with Gary Antoine Russell. Y'all can check that out on the channel. Also have posted up a fight interview with Mr. Gary Russell Jr. and also will have an interview with Gary Antonio Russell up here pretty soon. You know what I mean? Is he fighting on Pro Box? I haven't gotten any confirmation yet. That was the potential word, but haven't had any confirmation on that yet. It had been, suggested that he could be part of that June 6th card over in San Antonio, Texas. But at least from Monday, I hadn't had any confirmation that was the case. But anything can happen in boxing and all that type of stuff. You know what I mean? Alberto says nobody is waking up for Brian Norman Jr. Telling you, man, like you go have him in what is this? Ocean City General Gymnasium. Hold up, let me see if I could share this on the midweek report screen here. Hold on, let me see if I got this right. All right, here we go. Back. All right, so he's gonna be at Ocean City General Gymnasium in Tokyo, Japan. If y'all look up the venue, it holds about like 4,000 people is around the capacity for that particular venue. So you're going to have these fights there. You're going to have 2 world title fights on it, but still, 4,000 people in that venue. You know what I mean? So, go ahead real quick.
Not that we're picking on Brian Norman, right? But give me your top 5 weight classes in boxing right now.
Ooh, top 5. All right. In no order.
And I'm saying this because we're just a few years removed from being when 147 was likely the best weight class with like that with all Eric Spence, people like that.
Super welterweight, no order. Super welterweight, super middleweight, heavyweight, lightweight, and junior welterweight. Yeah. Or super lightweight. You know, junior welterweight, super lightweight, same thing. Yeah. So those are the 5.
Yeah, I would definitely be in agreement with that. And it's kind of funny. Like I said, just a few years ago, we had Crawford, Spence, Porter, Thurman when he wanted to fight.
Danny Garcia.
And 147 was definitely
Thurman.
Yeah. So and now look, just a few years later, Spence is gone. Crawford's still here, but he's already moved on from 147. And we even up on that, the division has had time to rebuild itself, and that's been a few years, and still even within a few years, it's still not in the top 5. And it's kind of funny because 147 has been great for a long time.
Yeah, so been a glamour division for years and years and years, and now with the the departure of Crawford, Spence, Thurman, Danny moved up, Porter retired. That all of those guys that kind of like would give added interest to that particular division, they're all gone. So it basically just leaves Ennis as the only American-based welterweight as of right now, outside of Brian Norman Jr. So when you don't have that much depth from the American side in the welterweight division, then it kind of like makes things go out there. He got someone on Rumble here. Shout out to those watching on Rumble. Says no one is ducking Devin Haney. Oh man, Adam says heavyweight is the most underrated. And a lot of these now, you got a lot of those guys fighting each other. So we've seen that over the past 18 months so far. Is that a lot of those guys at heavyweight are fighting each other. At least for Turkey Al Sheikh, that is one thing that is a positive there for Turkey Al Sheikh, is that he was able to make fights within the heavyweight division that are shaking up a few things there in that particular division there. And Alberto said, Brian Norman fighting at Japanese YMCA, man. Yeah, man, that's something there, man.
And even when you look at the immediate future of 147, what's there? If Ennis leaves, go to 154, what's there? Conor Ben, Barrios, if he wins against Pacquiao, what's there? It's still not much interest there. Even with Haney there fighting with his style, once again, not much interest. So 147 will really be kind of cast to the side in a sense, even in the immediate future.
Yeah. Now, real quick, Adam here mentions Andreas Kasarakis at 154 pounds. He had his recent win there under overtime boxing. He had that tournament where he won against Brandon Adams for that 154-pound tournament. He's climbing up the ranks there at 154 as well. He had his manager potentially say that, hey, if there was a fight with Virgil Ortiz Jr. out there, that he would, quickly take that. So we'll see, what is going to be next for Kasarakis. I don't know if he's, back from vacation or whatnot here, but we're going to try to see if we could secure a conversation with Andreas Kasarakis, of course, with him being part of the camp there with Coach Ronnie Shields. So we may see what could be next there for Kasarakis. They're 154 pounds. As I mentioned, that's like one of the deepest divisions in boxing at this particular point. When I talk about, like Kasarakis, you have the champions there, Sebastian Fedora. You got, former champion there in Israel Madrimov. Murtazaliev is a world champion. You got Eric Salubin there. Jesus Ramos, it's one of those divisions where you could mix and match, and you could have some very good fights there, on the horizon. There for the 154-pound division, and yes, I mentioned there with Xander Zayas, who's going to fight for a world title there, WBO, against Jorge Perez too. So and Tim Tszyu still in the picture too. So I mean that tells you how much how many fighters are out there within 154 pounds, and there's still more that I haven't even mentioned. Still, so there you go, man. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. What do you got? Tamir Smalls. Yeah, and Avius Griffin. There should get in the welterweight mix soon. Yeah, Tamir Smalls. You know they're over in Philadelphia, and yeah, Avius Griffin. You know recently had an article there on the website, theboxingsource.net, with him having a recent signing there with Most Valuable Promotions and Jake Paul. He's going to be on that card. I think, what is that, June 28th, there where Paul is going to be fighting Little Chavez, as I say. So Avius Griffin will be on that fight card. I talked about that also on the website. So yeah, Avius Griffin is another guy to watch out for. He is the WBC USA welterweight champion currently. So that's what you got. Yeah, man. A big fan of Avius Griffin, man. I'm trying to see if I can secure another conversation with Avius Griffin here, at least before he gets in this fight coming up over in California that they have on that Most Valuable Promotions card. Yeah, Lubin is at 154 pounds, but you just don't see it with him. Hey, when he had that fight with Sebastian Fundora, man, that was something. And here, when he had his recent bout on Pro Box at Kissimmee with Arjo Holmes Jr., he had the win, he had the stoppage, but he's going to be going up against Bakhramov Azaliev real soon, and it's going to really take something for him to really get the Bakhram, because Bakhram can hit. I feel like he could hit, worse than Sebastian Fundora. So, hey, man, Eric Lubin got to be on his P's, Q's, R's, S's, T's, U's, and V's against Bakhramov Azaliev, man. I'm going to just tell you that right now, because, man, if he ends up getting stopped again by Murtazaliev like that, man, it's going to be real crazy. You know what I mean? Hey, man. Hey, I already knew about the whole thing with the tube, man. So I've been on the Rumble. I got the joint on Kick too, but I ain't use Kick that much. But yeah. The YouTube joint, man. I don't know, man. I'm just doing this because I've been established on this for a minute. But yeah, they be tripping sometimes. You know what I mean? I got a couple more here that I'll bring up. What Adam says, Fernando Vargas Jr. Getting into the mix there at 154. I mean, we'll see, man. He's coming up there, but we'll see how their position there on Top Rank. As I mentioned here, close to the beginning of the show, with Top Rank getting to the end of their deal with ESPN, we'll have to see like what their plans are going to be after that. You know what I mean? He says, go watch and see. Hey, man. It's part of Google. It's part of Google, and a lot of people, wish kind of like the worst or whatever it is, but it's a wait and see approach. It's a wait and see approach when it comes to YouTube. We'll see how that goes there. But that's really what I had here so far with the midweek report. Of course, we got a couple of fight cards to look forward to on Friday and Saturday. Have the scheduled interview with Coach Bob Santos tomorrow. As we're going to talk about his fighter there, John Easter, being part of the Saturday card, and also talk about Mario Barrios getting that fight with Manny Pacquiao. So I'll see what he says in reference to that as well. So that's going to be a pretty interesting conversation. And not on this channel, but the DMV Boxing Network channel, we're going to have Franchon Cruz, the Zern Unified Champion there at super middleweight. Will be the special guest on the DMV Boxing Network show Friday around 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. So that's what I got here so far on the schedule. I will work on seeing if I can secure Troy Isley, because I've been reaching out to him for a good little minute, and hadn't necessarily been able to secure something here real quick. But I wanted to get it before fight week that's coming up for June 7th for Troy Isley there. Contender at the 160-pound division. So that's what I have. Big thanks here for Brother Terrell for joining in. Big thanks for YSM Sports Media for joining in at the start of this particular midweek report. And if you missed the early part of it, you could always go back and look to that. Hit the like button, hit the share button, hit the subscribe button. We really appreciate it here at the Boxing Source. And until next time, I'll be able to check y'all later. Peace out. There goes Scraple. Hey, man, if the fight happens, then we'll see. But until next time, I'll catch y'all later, y'all. Peace out.